Good day from Las Vegas. It is Vegas Veterans Winner's Circle, presented to you by gamblersworld.net, where we have the finest top professional handicappers each and every day giving you their top selections. Learn and find out what it's like to think like a professional handicapper and to come out a winner each and every week. And I have two of the biggest winners in Las Vegas right now. All of sports we know as Mr. Vegas, Jim Feist. Jim has been with us each and every week. We appreciate it and thank you very much. Jim, kind of a mixed bag this past weekend in NFL action, and we'll get to that in a minute. I want to introduce Paul to the crew. Paul, of course, is a shaker and mover out here in Las Vegas and someone whose opinion is very well respected. These are the top opinions of people in Las Vegas that make their living by betting on professional football games. All right, guys, let's get to it. Hey, only 30 days until pitchers and catchers report. Jim, I can't wait. Oh, all right. We got something going this weekend we got to talk about. I think we have NFL action. The top 8 teams, the finalists are involved here, and we've got a big one out there with Houston and Kansas City. But before we get to that, Jim, how did you see that first round going? Did you any surprises for you the way it ended up?
Well, first of all, I like to be honest. I didn't have a good week. Most of I had some good opinions that didn't turn out well, and had a couple bad opinions as well, which we all do.
Well, no one wins every day, Jim. We've said that before on this, on this show and on this panel. I mean, it's a struggle out there, and we have to just combat it each and every time we hit a roadblock or a bump in the road, shall I say? And Paulie, did you fare any better?
I did okay. I did have the Texans. I had a pretty big bet on Joe Mixon over rushing yards, which was nice. I had the over in the game. I tailed off a little bit at the end. Overall, I did make a little money. It was a little disappointing because I'm not looking to make a little money. I'm looking to excel. And I can't say I excelled. So, better things ahead, and hopefully we're going to score big this weekend.
It's always good to be on the plus, and we all struggle. I went 3-3 over the weekend. I went 0-3 on Sunday, split my 2 megabuck plays, but still encouraged about what we have this weekend. There's some great matchups. Kansas City looking for the three-peat, and they're starting against Houston at home. Jim, Kansas City's won like 8 games by 1 score, and they haven't been all that bad against the number, about 50% on the year. But have they been playing possum 23 days off? Do you think that helps or hurts them approaching this game?
This team has been to a lot of games the last couple of years because, they've gone to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. So they play extra games. So it's extra fatigue on the body and stuff. Takes a little longer to – and then, of course, they have all the media stuff they have to do. So I think that – well, first of all, when I look at coaches – because I think coaches make a huge difference. Andy Reid, Spagnuolo are 2 of the best. I'm not sure there's anybody better. And you got Mahomes, who's not too damn bad himself. And you got Kelsey, and you got Pacheco, and you got an offensive line that's, up and down. And they got some wide receivers back. But I think they played with their food a lot this year. and it didn't really put the pedal to the metal to try to bury anybody and just got through it, had the lowest margin of victory for anybody with that number of wins. I don't think they ever put their foot down and said, hey, let's go out and just play with how we can play. But if you look at their last few games, they've been much more effective.
Right.
This is a very, very good, very well-coached team. They know how to win. Knowing how to win, and I know from being a professional at one thing in my life, besides betting sports, that you can get a little too confident, you can get a little too lazy, you can get a little too preoccupied with yourself. They're where they want to be to set a major record of winning 3 straight Super Bowls. They're not coming in soft. Now, look at the other side of this game. I like Houston a lot. I like Stroud. I like the coach. But they're not the healthiest team. They've lost a lot of players. They have not played nearly as well as they did a year ago. Now they ran up against the Chargers. And we've anointed Herbert as being the next coming. But in the 5 years he's been around, and I have to give him a little bit of a pass because he had some terrible coaching along the way with Staley. I don't know how good he really is. And I know the pressure from the Houston defense caused him some problems, but 4 turnovers, 4 interceptions, and that's kind of
And
ideal.
he only had 3 all year. Jim comes up with 4 in one game.
If you
Sort
give
of an
most
anomaly,
teams,
but
if you
even he
give
can't win every game.
if you give anybody 4 interceptions in a
Yeah.
game, it's going to be hard to win.
They
So
held the Chargers to only 50 yards, so their defense is their focal point, the strongest point. Paulie, they've had 23 days. You think, like Jim said, that maybe Kansas City was just going through the motions. They knew they were a playoff team, and they were just ready, wanted to make sure they were healthy at the end of the season.
All right. So first of all, I want to give you my Justin Herbert soliloquy here because
Okay.
I am a defender of Justin Herbert. As you pointed out, 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions during the course of a regular season. This is not a good offensive line. I understand they have Slater at left tackle, and then you have Alt, who they drafted at right tackle. The bookends are fine. The middle is trash. He was under siege the entire game on Sunday. And granted, when people mention the 4 interceptions, I think there should be a caveat there because one of them went off the hands of Will Dissly, should not have been an interception. One of them went through the hands of McConkey. Now, you could make an argument it was high, but still, it should not have been intercepted. The one across the field that he threw across his body, that Lassiter picked off, granted, this was not a pretty pass. Right. But I got to give this guy a pass because 23-3, those are phenomenal numbers, and Alt and Slater both also missed some time. So Justin Herbert, to me, is a winner. It was his second playoff game. Ultimately, I think he will capture an MVP and a Super Bowl. It may take a few years, but he's going to get there. Now, on to Houston, Kansas.
Right.
Sorry about that, Jim.
That's all right. No, it's okay because I have a comment to make about him as well. But go ahead. Go with Kansas City and Houston.
All right. So on to Kansas City and Houston. Look, I can't lay points with Kansas City. I'll tell you why. Their offensive line is not good. Patrick Mahomes has been on his horse the entire year. He's been under a lot of pressure. The defense is solid. The running game is pretty good. Pacheco is back. And on the other side, Houston, Stroud has been inaccurate at times. You pointed out the injuries, specifically at the receiver position. But not only there, safety Petrie went out about 5 games ago. And then they lost Jimmy Ward as well, and it has weakened their run defense. I think Kansas City will have success on the ground, but I can't take it, and I can't give it. Okay. I will have a few props on this game. Maybe I'll post it inside the write-up of one of the games that I post, and we won't be graded on those props, but it'll just be kind of a bonus if you want to tag along because – the majority of my action on these games, since the lines are tight, the majority of my action oftentimes comes on props.
All right, Paulie, thank you. By the way, neither of these teams have been high scoring the entire year. We talked about their defenses being the strongest point. Both teams have gone over 7 times out of 18 games, and that's not very much. Getting back to Herbert, one comment. The score and his accuracy as far as completion percentage were almost the same last week. The Chargers got beat 32-12, and he was 14 for 32. So maybe there's some kind of correlation there. But a terrible day for Herbert. He's a lot better than we showed. Kansas City's coming off. Jim, you remember the last time they played? They were a 10.5-point underdog, and they got beat 38-0 in a game that they absolutely didn't show up for. And that vaulted, of course, Denver into the playoffs. I don't know. I think they may have been playing possum, but either way, I think these two teams are going to play to the under. Houston has no shot in the shootout against this team, and Kansas City has not shown the ability to score this year. I think they scored 30 points once, maybe. I'm not even sure about that. But that's it from these guys. And remember, we are gamblersworld.net. Each and every day we're out here. Log on. 13 of the finest professional handicappers out there with their selections day in and day out. This is how these guys make their living. So give us a like, subscribe, or even share the show with somebody else. But we're out here, and we'll be here for eternity, we hope, right? NFL is, so we should be too. All right, in the second game on that day, we have Washington, now 10.5, 10-point underdog, going to Detroit. Jim, that juggernaut of Detroit's offense just doesn't stop, and Montgomery's supposed to return. How do the guys get an ACL turn 3 weeks prior and then are back in the uniform and on the field within a month? It seems amazing to me, but Detroit's firepower can't be denied.
Well, they have a pretty damn good defensive coordinator, and they've had defensive issues. I'm talking about Detroit. They've gotten healthier. They've gotten some people back, not everybody, and not everybody's going to be 100%. Nobody's 100% after all the games these guys have played. But they win a lot of their games with their offense, and they can control that offense because they have a good running game and a great offensive line. And Jared Goff is a very underrated quarterback.
Exactly.
Very underrated quarterback.
Yes.
And Dan Campbell, as crazy as he is, it's all that craziness that gets them there. But occasionally, like he did last year, in the end, against San Francisco, he made a mistake and it cost them. But you got to remember, if he does this 100 times and he gets away with it 70% at the time, it's the reason they're there. So you take a little bit of the good and the bad with the same guy. But they're the best team in this matchup. They're playing at home. They've had a little extra rest to get a little healthier. Washington, I mean, I can't say anything negative about Daniels or Quinn or anything, the new ownership and all that. I mean, they got a great future ahead of them.
Yeah.
They got a little bit lucky last week with a couple plays, and then, of course, the Baker turnover. But they got there, and they won it, and now they're here. I think this is kind of – some of these games are pretenders against contenders. And some of them, and this one might be it, one of them, the better team is favored, the better team is at home, the better team is rested, and they had more tape. They saw both of these teams, Kansas City and this team.
Yep.
They both had tape from watching last week, what these teams are doing, and these coaches are pretty damn good. You're not – I mean, Campbell's good, Andy Reid's good. These are number one seeds. I think it's going to be real hard for these guys to come in here and win these games. Now, the question is, do you want to take the numbers? Because the numbers are big. You're over a touchdown in both of those games. Tough.
But Paul, don't you think a team that has won 13 games getting double digits is kind of attractive to the general public out there, in spite of how great the Lions have looked?
Yes. I think this is too many points. Look, I don't question the Lions and what they've accomplished, and they will more than likely win the football game. But, boy, that's a lot of points for a defense which at times has had breakdowns. And granted, that last game of the season, they put the Vikings to bed. But how great does that victory look now that the Vikings went into Arizona against the Rams and completely fell apart as well? So I'm just not sold on giving double digits or near double digits. The total, when it came out, I looked at it and I said, I said, they really priced this one to perfection, and it did come back in a half a point. So the way I'm going to play this game is I've got a few props in there that look attractive to me. I can't make a case for either side. And if I was going to make a case for one side, and I had to, it would probably be Washington, just because you have a possibility of that backdoor cover when you're taking that many points. They could be down by 16 points, no time for celebration, because they could walk down the field. Detroit could be in celebration mode, and they could score a touchdown and bust you out.
Well, Paul, Washington has been an over team, 11-7 on the year. And, of course, we know how explosive Detroit's offense is. Jim, this week, Campbell said, like you said, he says, we are ready. This is a guy who wanted to tear kneecaps off when he had his job interview, for crying out loud. And they're averaging 33 points, 0.2, which is leading the NFL. And their offense is gaining 410 yards a game second. The yardage isn't as important as the points, I would expect, because we have so many teams that are out there that put up Houston was a good example, Jim, that put up yardage and just didn't make the points. They just didn't score that many. Detroit has beaten Washington 7 of the last 8 times, and I don't think they've ever beaten them in the playoffs as of yet, or lost the last 3 in the playoffs. I think this game is going to be a high-scoring game. Go ahead, Jim.
I'd like to ask a question. Okay, we just talked about 2 big favorites, 2 number 1 seeds. And nobody enjoys laying double digits or close to double digits. I certainly don't. Paul doesn't. It's not something we make a lot of money doing. But there are ways to bet this game, and I know
Right.
Paul bets a lot of props, and he's very good at it. But there's other ways to look at games like this, and I really want to ask your opinion, not making a statement, but asking an opinion.
Yeah.
There are, positive EV ways of playing teasers, and there's also positive ways of playing money line parlays. So, and this specifically is for Paul because he knows he's a math genius with this stuff. But if you were going to do a teaser on both these favorites, or going a money line parlay, which way would you recommend it if you wanted to play the favorites? And most of the people do want to play favorites.
Right.
The people that listen to this, not all the sharps want to play favorites, but a lot of the fans do.
I'm not a money line parlay guy, especially in these scenarios, because the games don't go off simultaneously. So if I have a change of heart and I play the first one, I don't want to play the second one, or I can capture a better line, or I have options. Once you're locked into the money line parlay, especially if it's multiple teams, 3 teams, I was going to say you really are in committed in the second game. You really can't hedge it off. So I do like teasing at times, but it must be below a field goal. And I like to get to 2 or better. At 2 with the tie, and then you got to look at your teaser odds, because teaser odds make a huge difference. There are still books out there, not too many, 6-point teaser minus 110, 6.5 120, 7 minus 130. But then you have other books who are minus 20, minus 30, minus 40. Now, in this case, you might want to look at a 7-point teaser, but I'm not laying $1.40 because the 7-point teaser at certain places is going to get you below the field goal. You're not going to get below the field goal with a 6 or a 6.5 here, more than likely not the 6.5. So, that's a consideration for sure.
Okay, now remember for everyone out there.
One more question.
Go ahead, Jim.
We have an exceptional week this week because we also have a college football game that goes off on Monday. That is another over 7-point favorite. So let's say, this is an entertainment business. There's only 7 games left in the pros and 1 in the college. So we're in an entertainment business. Hypothetically, 90% of the people want to bet on the favorites. I'm just picking a number. How about if you take all 3 of those big favorites, including the college game, and you have those favorites going for you either in a money line parlay or a teaser, the Wong teaser, the positive EV types, when you get it under the 3. And I understand that a lot of people, I'm not going to try to explain that here.
You could also go with a 10-point teaser here. Because Ohio State's up.
Now, if you win the first 2, Paul.
Yeah.
Now you're going into Ohio State with a much lower number that you have a tremendous hedging possibility of taking the dog plus the points line for a big. So now you have a positive situation of either breaking even or making substantial money. Let's say your whole bet from the beginning, and Paul, I know you're a very large player. Let's say you made a $10,000 bet on a money line teaser or on a money line parlay or a teaser, getting all the positives. And now you're going into the Monday night game with all that going for you. It wouldn't be too hard to take those points and put yourself in a break even or making $20,000, $30,000.
Well, look, I'm in that situation because the ticket.
I knew you would be. I knew it.
Okay. I have a low 5-figure ticket on Ohio State plus money, which I played before the 14 playoff. I just thought it was great value, and it moved to minus $1.05, and I think I'm minus plus $1.15, and it moved as much as minus 110. So I'm in a position where I could get out on Monday night.
All right, you're in a great spot, Paul. that kind of number there. And by the way, for everyone out there, when you're buying Paul's selections, like he said, he very well may be giving you the prop that he's talking about here that we can't list on the website, but it'll be included in his analysis. So, Paul, you get a little bonus with Paul here. Not only say a side or a total on it, but you're also going to get props within the body of his write-up. Thank you for that, Paul. And by the way, don't miss Winner Circle Daily Podcast. Sean Higgs. We got Kyle Hunter, Mark Lawrence, Brian Bittner, Matt Franco. I'm on there, Doug Upstone, the whole crew, Scott Pritchard, each and every day. Sean Higgs hosts it, and you get the same kind of information you're getting from us. We do a weekly show for the NFL and for college football. They do a daily show each and every day. So don't be afraid to log on and get a load of more professional information from the top handicapping site in the country, gamblingsworld.net. All right, guys, let's move to Sunday. We got another big one going on. Of course, they're both big ones. Before we get to the real big one, the final game, which I think we're all interested in. The Rams are going to Philadelphia, and the Rams coming off a victory outright at home against Minnesota. Actually, it wasn't at home. It was in Arizona, guys, and some people thought that might have hurt them. I didn't think it hurt them at all, and I guess old Sean McVay knew what he was doing by laying down that final game and waiting for the Vikings. Jim?
Well,
Philadelphia and the LA Rams.
McVay's a great coach, and he's got a great quarterback, and they got Puka and they Cup, and the running back, and they're playing very well. And the defense, even though they're not a big name defense, they're all draft choices. They're young guys that are playing really hard. The question I have with Hurts is he 100%? He did come off the 3 weeks off. He had the concussion protocol. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure he's 100%, but they have a good defense. They have a great offensive line. They run the ball really well. They can control the clock. Saquon Barkley is having an amazing season.
Yep.
Rams have to cross the country, go. They're going to be playing in cold weather, all that, da-da-da-da-da. But you got some quality on the Rams side, too. The one of the issues with these, there's statistics that I don't personally keep, but I keep track of people that do. When these underdogs win straight up and they go to the division round, they don't do very well. I mean, it's like really bad, like 2-15 against the spread. So you have a couple of those this week. Houston, Washington, the Rams, all dogs that won. And now they're traveling to better teams. That is not a great statistic. Yeah. I'm just telling you, it's an amazingly bad statistic.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not, I can't ignore it. I don't know that I want to follow it,
right,
but I really can't ignore it.
All right, Paul, I think these two clubs are both defense first. Philadelphia's only gone over 7 times. The Rams gone over 8 times on the year. But, these two played in November. Do you remember what happened that day, Paulie? I mean, Philadelphia crushed them. I think Barkley, they ran for almost 300 yards. Or they did run for 311 yards in that game. Can the Rams adjust their defense in Philadelphia?
Well, look, it was 37-20. And I know that Philadelphia only punted once. And the one time they did kick the ball away, it was because of a 13-yard sack on Jalen Hurts. I'm not a big Ram fan. I will tell you that I could look down their schedule and point to 3 games which I feel that they played very good football. The first game against the Lions, game 1, went to overtime. They ended up losing in OT in the extra session. And then you had the Minnesota game, 30-20 on Thursday night. And that was a game where the Vikings were off a huge game against the Lions, a heartbreaking 31-29 loss.
Right.
And went to LA, lose the game. And then, of course, this past week. Outside of that, I don't see much in the Rams. They fell to the Dolphins, went down rather easily. They went down to this Eagle team, 37-20. And by the way, Philly didn't have Smith that game. Now, in this game, they have lost Nakobe Dean, who's one of their major key players on defense. And I definitely think that's going to hurt the Eagles. But I just don't think much of the Rams. Cooper Kupp, he was a fine receiver. He's still a good receiver, but he's definitely taken a step back. So you have Nakua, and the only way the Rams could win this game is if they get a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts, same as what they did to Sam Darnold, and put him under the entire game, because outside of that, Philadelphia just has better personnel. And I'm not a huge Eagle fan. They've
Right.
menial teams in the game this year. Jacksonville, they win by 5, barely survived Carolina, but I do believe they have an edge here at home and will put the Rams away and advance to the NFC Championship game.
All right, thank you, Paulie. Rams, and I mean the Eagles entered this game with 15 wins and 3 losses. A big difference between the way they entered the playoffs last year, losing 5 of 6 and then getting annihilated in the first playoff game. I think there's a whole new attitude with this Eagle team. There has to be, considering where they were last year at this time. 6 points, 6.5 points. These two teams, I don't think there's going to be. I don't think the Rams are looking to get into a shootout, and I think it's going to be rather conservative in the cold weather in Philadelphia. So there is likelihood to be snow. Maybe not. You should check on game day, of course. And I think the game plays under. I think it stays under. Now we're going to go to the creme de la creme, the best game of the weekend. Whoa, boy, I can't wait for this one. And they put it in the right spot, Jim. They put it on Sunday night. We have the Ravens who have been moved into a favorite against Buffalo. And Buffalo are 14-4 on the year, 11-7 against the number. And the Ravens have been great against the number, 11-6-1, Jim. Really tough matchup, even at Pick'em.
This is brutal. This is a brutal game to analyze. I mean, I can look at this game 20 different ways, and I come up with a different answer each time. These guys, this is quality stuff. This is good stuff.
This should be good football.
This is not contenders versus pretenders. These are contenders. These are good teams, and it's a shame one of them has to go home. Henry has been. He's a big addition in the offseason, 1,900 yards. He controls the ball. Since they moved him to the outside and they put him on he's running wild when you get him the ball. And then on the other side, you got Lamar, who's not a bad passer. Nobody really gives him credit for that, but he also can run. I mean, this is a tough team. You got Harbaugh as a head coach. Monken has made in the past a couple mistakes in these big playoff games. He goes away from the running game, which is their really key, like he did last year against Kansas City. He was throwing the ball all over the lot. He should have been running the ball. But what happens here? I mean, Milano, since he came back from being hurt, who's the leader of the defense on Buffalo's side, Pro Football Weekly, or not weekly, but Focus has rated him 162. He was a top 5 guy, but he's not healthy like he was, and he's not in that kind of shape right now. That's a big loss because he calls all the defense. He's the leader on the team on the defensive side. They're undersized. Buffalo's a little bit undersized compared to what they're going to be facing, and perhaps that's why Baltimore went to the favorite. I'm not going to play a side in this game. I just don't know what the hell to do with it. I do favor it to go over the total, though.
Right, I do too. Paulie, Baltimore has outrushed every opponent, 18 of them this year. It's only happened 2 other times in NFL history. 1990, Dallas, they won the Super Bowl, and 86 with the Bears. Is that a path for the Ravens to make it to the Super Bowl? I mean, they ran for 299 yards against Pittsburgh their last time out, and we know that the Pirates, or the Steelers, shall I say, just faded at the end of the year, and we all anticipated it and saw it coming because of their easier schedule at the beginning of the season, Paulie. How do you see this one? I think it might be a high-scoring affair myself, and I think Jim mentioned he thought that the total might go over as well.
Well, did you say Pirates?
I did. I just said Pirates. I could have said Penguins, but I said the Pirates because I got this baseball on my mind. 30 days, pitchers and catchers report. Paul,
yeah, I know. I was thinking Willie Stargell, Manny Sanguine. Oh, okay. We're talking football.
Yeah, Roberto Clemente, Rocky Colavito. We put them all together.
Okay. So anyway, look, this is the key aspect of the game. I'm not sold on the Bills' ability to run the football. I don't look at stats. I pay attention to the eye test. And every team of means has been able to run the football, except perhaps the Rams. They struggled. Williams was 29 for 87 yards. But then again, Nakua went off for 15 receptions against them. The Lions also struggled a little bit, but then again, Goff threw for 500 yards.
Yeah.
I watched the first game between these two teams. Now, Taron Johnson didn't play for the Bills. Milano didn't play for the Bills. And then Bernard didn't play that game as well. Taylor Rapp went out in the second quarter. It was already 21-3 Bills at Ravens at that point, and Baltimore actually was en route to 28-3 if Lamar Jackson didn't put the football on the ground. I just don't think the Bills can stop this team. And offensively in that game, Buffalo was really struggling. The lone touchdown that they did have was on a broken play. Josh Allen threw the ball. He was 1 foot away from stepping out of bounds and flung it downfield. Shakir caught it, 3-yard line. They go in the next play. It really wasn't a contest. I don't believe that the Bills are going to be able to stop the Ravens. I don't. I think the Bills, their only path to winning this is going to be to somehow outscore the Ravens. I'm not saying that's not possible, but it's going to be difficult. So be that as it may, and that being said, I like the over in the game.
Okay.
I think it's being suppressed because of the weather. And I know I'm here in Toronto and it's snowing today and we're a few hours away from Buffalo, maybe an hour and a half. And it's going to be cold. It's going to be 20 degrees. But I still think the weather may be overblown here. The winds are not going to be that drastic. And I think it should go over the total. And once again, path to victory, Bills got to outscore them.
All right, Jim, that's a hat trick from Toronto. Could have been the Maple Leafs, but it looked like we're all playing the over on this one. I'm wondering real quick, opinion on who's the MVP? Is it Lamar or is it Josh Allen? I mean, Lamar's got 2 in his belt already, and Allen hasn't had one. Jim, which way do you think it's going to go?
In this particular game or for the whole
I
year?
mean for the season.
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff over Allen, but I don't know. MVP.
It's going to probably go to the winner of the Super Bowl, and I don't think either one of them.
I mean, do they wait that long for regular season MVP,
this
or
is,
does it have
this
to go
is
through
regular
the Super Bowl?
season only.
Oh, regular season? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Regular season.
So they're done on their performances of what they've already done. How do
then
you
it's
gauge
going
it?
to probably be Josh Allen.
Okay, Paulie, what do you think about that?
I like Allen only because, and you've heard this before, it's kind of cliche at this point. He has done more with less. He has also been much better in the fourth quarter. Lamar, they lost 5 games, came up a little lame against the Steelers in the fourth quarter, Eagles as well. Put the ball on the ground against Cincinnati. Was lucky that the Bengals missed a 50-yard field goal in overtime. And, of course, the Raider game, that was a loss, and they almost fell apart against Dallas early on with a 28-point lead in the fourth quarter, and barely held on by 3. Josh has been better late in the game. I think Lamar feasted against the Bengals defense, and he's had a couple breaks. He faced the Giants when they didn't play anybody. So my opinion, and I'm objective, I don't have a love for Josh Allen. I don't have a love for Lamar Jackson. This is not coming from a fan. This is purely objective, and I think Josh Allen has been more important to his team in getting the wins, and they had a better record. I'm throwing out that last game against the Patriots because the Bills really didn't care and nobody played.
Right.
So I would lean Josh Allen here.
I think I agree with you. I think Allen will get it, and Jim as well. Lamar's had it twice, and like you said, it seems as though Allen's done more with less. And either way, I don't think he can go wrong. But I think the public sentiment is to give it to Allen right now. Say, hey, gang out there, this is gamblersworld.net, the finest trio. I mean, we got a baker's dozen of the finest handicappers in the country right here. And there's Jim Feist and Paul Bovi do it each and every day. So log on, follow the buy links, get an expert's opinion on the big games. Make yourself a consistent winner by logging on to gamblersworld.net. I am Chip Chirimbes for Jim Feist and Paul Bovi. We thank you for viewing. We'll be back here again next week. Hey, guys, good luck this weekend. We got some big games. I'm certainly going to enjoy them all. And, Paulie, Watch out for flying pucks out there. Be careful, Maple Leaf land. I'll see you guys. God bless. See you next week.